गुड मॉर्निंग and welcome to Gana Short. Gana Short में आप सबका स्वागत है. Today we are looking at the Trumpian pause. Trump has said 2 months, right? The 2 weeks. Okay, this is what he said, and that opens up a few options, right? Before I go there and talk about all that, I want to clarify a few things. A lot of people are still asking, sir, please do videos in Hindi. When I do videos in Hindi, people want me to do videos in English. So, well, I can't do both, right? So, but all my videos with alternate media and with Jaipur dialogues are in Hindi. You can have a look at it. Otherwise, all my videos which I put out in clips as my Gunner short clips, right? They are all you can use different audio tracks. You can, those who want it in Hindi can see it in Hindi. Who want it in English, you can Hindi videos. You can see it in English, or rather hear it in English. For that matter, any language. You can hear it in German, Portuguese, Spanish, and all that. They've been about 8, 9 languages in which you can hear. So I would suggest you go there. And the second thing is they say, look, we can't see your slides and all that. Well, my videos ideally are seen on a laptop or a monitor. Okay, if you're really interested in those slides and those points, in any case, I explain all the points which I put across. Okay, so that's how it is. So you take your choice, whichever way you want to go. And the third is something which has come up now. Sir, please have your attention. Some people are trying to instigate fight between you and other YouTubers. I mean, not in any fight. They can do what they want. In fact, I don't know who the other fellows are. I generally know some of these chaps. I met them once in a while. No interest. They want to fight with me, they can fight with me. I don't want to fight with anyone. I have look, I'm far above all these chaps. I live in a different world. Please understand that. Okay. I'm not going to get down to anyone else's level. There's no fight. I'll put across what I have to, and that's the end of the story. Okay. That's very minor in my way of looking at it. Okay. Let's look at this, the Trumpian pause. Oh, yesterday, the Indian government, put out this, missive saying that they're giving an advisory for people to evacuate from Israel. Earlier, they said Iran, and from Iran, they're getting people out from Azerbaijan and wherever. They're getting them back to India, and a lot of Kashmiris in Iran who've gone, they're coming back. Israel also evacuation is taking place. So let's be very clear about one thing. When government of India does all these things are very tight. Just remember this, things are serious. This war is not going anywhere away. Okay? And in fact, it's becoming more intriguing. Well, I thought something will happen, but Trump being Trump, he said, I'm going to decide in the next 2 weeks what's going to happen. Some people have said it's taco and things like that. No, it's not. Trump is always chicken out kind of a thing. He's building options for himself. And we'll discuss what those options are, what those issues are, and what things can happen and not happen. Right? But let's take a review of what's happened so far. Okay. Then we'll know what's the situation and then why this and how it will go. And I've got some very interesting articles which I read and I thought I'll share it with you. Right. First and foremost, let's go first. Look at this map. When you look at this map, a lot of places in Iran have been hit. A lot of places in Israel also have been hit. What does it tell you? It tells you that Israel doesn't have a very clear, air defense. Their air defense is getting hit, being penetrated. Israel is using more deadly missiles, and that is why Israel is also getting hit. It's not a one-way street. Israel has done a tremendous job in so far. Let's be militarily, I think it is super, right? The kind of intelligence, the kind of targeting, the way they've taken the air defenses of Iran out, they have gone knocked off their military leadership, their nuclear leader, scientists. They've knocked off Iran's military capabilities. Amazing. I mean, from a Fauji standpoint, I think they're done tremendous. Even from the point of view of their original aim of degrading Iran's nuclear capability, I think they've done hell of a lot. Now it's coming out that Arak heavy water plant, which was supposed to have been not under use, been finished. That Arak heavy water plant, even if it is closed, if it is revived, it is useful for uh, you know it is useful for making plutonium, and heavy water is got requirements in weaponization. But I think I'll have to take a talk on weaponization and the whole thing. Missile bases have been knocked off. Missile launchers have been knocked off. So that reduces capability. And then, of course, Natanz has been hit. And now it's coming out that IAEA has said that the enrichment facility at Natanz has been damaged. How damaged, we don't know, but it's been damaged. Okay. Fordo is intact so far. So far, Fordo is intact. Isfahan, some damage, but like I said, there are radiation risks associated with all this, and so it's been whatever. Iran has been set back in terms of nuclear capability at least by 10 years. That's the way I look at it. It'll take that time for new scientists to come up and devise ways, and the cost, the money, economy as it is. Iran didn't have a great economy. So all these factors so far, but there are known unknowns. We'll talk of them, right? Uh, Now, if you look at this map, which gives you the missile sites, and these are the missile sites which have been hit, nuclear sites which have been hit. We know that we've been following it, but this is what has happened, right? And then let's talk of the U.S. forces. The U.S. forces, their original location was this. These red ones, red dots are the U.S. Bases. The other assets which are there in sites are in gray. But at this point of time, everyone is here. Most of the US bases in the Middle East have been vacated, and they've been concentrated. US is now in a recce preparatory mode. US forces, I'm talking. And there's also enhanced this thing of guarding the Strait of Hormuz. They have to keep this also open. So that's where the military equation lies. The question is this: 2 weeks pause will, there's a question, but there's something beyond this question. The question here is: will Israel's interceptor outlast Iran's missiles? Right? Why? Because the amount of interceptors or the AD it has is limited. Equally, it has got a limited amount of ammunition to hit Iran. Similarly, Iran has got only a limited set of uh, rockets and missiles. Can it last more than 2 weeks? Will it happen that in 2 weeks both these sides are exhausted, and then USA steps in with its full might? See, people say 2 weeks Trump gets mohalat. He's given himself a break. It's not taco. It's very strategic. Okay, it puts both Israel and Iran under the thumb of USA. That's the first thing. Because after 2 weeks, when all this over, right? The report is that Israel is firing interceptors faster than it can intercept. You have to understand in this. For every interception, for every missile which is fired, you might have to fire 3 or 4 interceptors. So if Iran fires 1, these chaps have to fire 4 or 5. It depends on which kind of a weapon you are using. If you're using a normal air defense weapon, it's a volley of fire. So can Israel replace them? Is their production facilities up? We don't know. The estimate is Iran had about 2,000 missiles. Out of those 2,000 missiles, Maybe about 400, maybe anything between 400 to 1,000 have been fired already. So, what is Iran's residual capability? And then, of course, the issue is how many launchers do they have? These are the questions which are there, right? And how much has Israel achieved so far? And then there are sort of known unknowns in this whole story. When you look at it, and this is something which this paragraph which I read in Foreign Affairs in one article actually highlights this business of known unknowns. Let me read it out, and I'll explain to you. If fears of undeclared facilities were a reason to ditch diplomacy, right, they constitute an even stronger argument against military action. Because you take military action, those undeclared facilities, we don't know what will happen to them. The United States and Israel can't target what they don't know. They can target only what they know. What is it? That's the known unknown. Okay. Iran may have secret facilities, as Mr. Trump feared. If so, it could reconstitute its program rapidly, perhaps within months. But that's unlikely because I don't think, after going through this battering, Iran will be in a position to immediately make a weapon within a couple of months. Even if you have a weapon, you have to deliver it. I still maintain the backpack nuclear weapon is the worst case scenario, or the most dangerous scenario for USA or Israel. More for USA than Israel, because USA can be penetrated. It is huge. You can take a backpack anywhere and blow it. See, when nations are up with their backs against the wall, they can do anything, right? And if Iran follows through on its threat to curtail inspections, this is important, as it is likely if US joins the war, then the ability to find out where these hidden stuff are is gone. The moment US joins the war, Iran will not open any of its facilities, and there's no deal after that. The deal will be only at the end of the war, and that depends on how the war goes. War is something funny; no one knows how it goes. Okay, and that is already showing up. We don't know. That's the unknown factor in this whole story. In any equation where there's nuclear facilities are involved, there's known unknown is going to be a issue. So that's how it is. So why the 2-week pause? There's so many issues. People have to understand. This is a very pregnant pause, if I say so. Okay? Very pregnant pause. Yeah, there's a very interesting thing. Yeah, this is it. Number of missiles Iran sends to Israel has been dropping day to day. I agree, because Israel, see, let me explain this. What John Doe has said. Because now Iran must be suddenly realizing USA has not entered. I need to have something against USA. So I'll reduce. No, if they've reduced, Israel gets a molat, gets breathing space, because they don't have to intercept that much. But similarly, if Iran has to be attacked by Israel, does Israel have the capability to attack? 2 weeks is a lot of time to sustain a war. Okay, so Trump is stretching both of them out before it gets control. Is that the plan? That let Israel finish off Iran and its capacity to fight, and then move in. But in 2 weeks' time, if Israel continues its action, Iran will be hardly in a position to do anything. Or if it doesn't retaliate and hold something back, then it would have got hammered. And all USA has to do is give ammunition to Iran, which anyway it's giving. Okay. So, many of us have discounted that USA doesn't have the capability to prosecute a war and all. I think we are off the mark. We're off the mark. Okay. Okay. Now let's go one by one. Is it reluctance? It's possible that this 2 weeks is to give USA and Trump time to say, uh, let's take a call whether USA should enter the war or not. What's the chance of victory in this war? Okay. What is the definition of victory in this war? And Trump came in saying that I don't want to enter a war. Now he's entering a war within 4 months. This is Trump's war. And what will be the outcomes? What will be the problem for USA? So there's a political reluctance on the part of Trump, and I see it right from beginning that I don't want to get into a war. Well, it's connected to the last point, Nobel Prize. If he gets into a war, he'll not get the Nobel Prize. Yeah, as simple as that. I found a nice little cartoon on this. Look at this. Look at this cartoon. Have a look at it. He says, "Look, he says, is this gonna delay my Nobel Prize? So write my peace prize." So that's an issue. That's an issue which must be weighing heavily. So the political repercussions of this war on USA, Trump has to vector in. Okay, right. Is it part of deception? He says, "Okay, I'll not do anything for 2 weeks," and third day he goes in, or day after tomorrow he goes in. Is it time for better preparations? Generate more options, like I said. Options will become better if you give yourself time. Especially in this condition, I think this is a very smart move. Strategically, I think it's a fantastic thing. Right? You're ready. You're staring down, and Iran is staring down the barrel. After all, the barrels are towards Iran, and Iran is then diplomatically coerced, weakened. Now, if and let Israel do the battlefield preparation, more intel will come, more options will open. The options will be military and diplomatic. It's possible within the 2 weeks, Iran might wave the white flag and say, "Okay, we've this thing. Let's discuss." It might not be the white flag in the typical sense, but Iran might seek an off ramp and say, "Okay, let's get back to a deal." Are there covert options which will emerge? Will there be clear weaknesses in air defense where you just go do what you have to do and finish off things and then create political conditions without setting foot on ground? Okay. Is there a option for a regime change? See, one of the things which I will talk of today, I'm going to discuss that in detail, is that Israel and USA have gone into this without political preparation of Iran. Iran today is politically still stable internally. There's no opposition. I'll talk of that a little later. I got across a fantastic article which I must share with all of you. So maybe in the next 2 weeks, this Ayatollah regime might start crumbling, and there might be a political thing coming up, and then you do a tight military action, or a small or a sharp military action, focused military action. Then things might work out. Like yeah. Look, he says, Ranjan Gupta says, "I don't think Trump is taking any advice or tactical enough at present. I don't think White House mind to advise something good." I don't agree with this kind of a thinking. He's not a fool. He might be impulsive. He might keep some of his advisors out. He might keep a coterie in. But he takes his military advisors along. So don't count anything out in this. This is what I've learned in life, in the military. Don't count everything out, and every move is an opportunity and a danger. Okay. So can he do focus reads, take out certain things, weaken the regime, and then go in for it? Or does it pave way for a deal? It says, "Look, I've stopped. You want to deal? Let's deal and finish it. Is there internal pressure on Trump? There could be. And there is. We'll talk of it. We'll just get to that. Right? So all these issues are on the table. First thing in the morning, I got up and I saw at about 4 o'clock in the morning. I get up at about 4:35 in the morning, 4:35. And I saw, he's 2 weeks. He says, I'll decide in 2 weeks or whatever. Then I said, yeah, why is he doing it? So I went on the walk in the morning, and I kept thinking and, listening snippets here and there. And then I got all this. If I could get all this in 1 hour, 2 hours, those chaps are planning. You have to understand military planning. You generate options through planning. I mean, let me put it this way. I'll give you my personal example. Every week when I was in, difficult situation and counterinsurgency in the Northeast, every week I used to get my commanding officers and sit down and talk. Because that was a 3-year trip, 3-year stint. Every week I used to tell them what's happening. Same thing what I'm doing. And, every move of political move, military move, militants move, drugs, everything goes on there. Terrorism, you will find even arms smuggling and all kinds of rackets, international call rackets, all those nonsense goes on there. I mean, it is amazing. So every week I used to sit and talk. And when we go through an organized way of doing things, options come up. Okay. And those options, as a military man, I used to go and give it to the chief ministers, whoever. I was dealing with 3-4 of them. So I used to go and deal with them, right? And tell them, look, these are the things. They said, look, we never imagined this. I said, yeah, I agree with you because you're not a military man. You're not thinking the way I'm thinking. Similarly, when I used to go and talk to them, and every month we used to have discussion, formal with the chief secretaries and all that. So some ideas I used to get from them. So system generates a lot of generates a lot of thought processes, and it gives you the thing for action, right? I agree with what John Doe says. Trump isn't stupid. He's very smart. People thought they could turn him into a puppet, got sacked like John Bolton and Steve Bannon. Even now, he's sidelined a few people. Okay. So, I mean, I think this is a very, very, sadi hui in Hindi jo bolte hai na, balanced way of thinking. It's generated him a lot of options, right? So, let's not think that this is something foolish. I think this is something, in fact, if anything, this whole story has become more interesting. Right? You have to understand this. Okay. Now, this is a small video I got. It gives you an insight into the internal pressures. Who is this chap? This chap is Matt Gaetz. Who is Matt Gaetz? He was a chap who was nominated as the Attorney General by Trump. He couldn't be nominated because he had his personal issues of sex and all that, whatever. We're not interested in that. But listen to what he says, and then you'll understand the internal pressures which are there today in USA. And mind you, this fellow is a Republican, and he's also ex-4G. Also, he is one of Trump's favorites. And yet, he speaks the way he speaks. Have a look at it.
But Matt, Iran has kicked out IAEA inspectors. There could be portions of their nuclear program that are secret. A nuclear secret in the Middle East. How about it? If the world is interested in a secret nuclear program in the Middle East, there is a country that won't allow any international inspectors. Israel. Israel has a nuclear weapon. Did you know that? I do. They allow no inspections. They are fully secretive and clandestine about it. And the Americans are fully aware. You know what? I don't even blame Israel for this. If they want to develop a nuclear weapon, if they had the blessing to do so secretly, I'm not in judgment of that. But to drag the world into a regime change war over secret nuclear weapons, when you have secret nuclear weapons, is a bit hypocritical. So here's the deal. How about Iran and Israel both give up their secret nuclear weapon programs? If Trump got that deal, he wouldn't only get the Nobel Peace Prize, they'd probably name it the Trump Peace Prize forevermore. And it's not that crazy to think about Israel denuclearizing. Look at the model in South Africa. South Africa denuclearized right before they stopped being an apartheid state. Prominent voices in Israel and America have called for Trump to recognize Israel's sovereignty over Judea and Samaria, which some people call the West Bank. If that happens, Israel will have to let the 5 to 6 million people who live there vote. And they don't want to do that. I'm not calling Israel an apartheid state. Right now, I don't think they are. But if they are ruling the West Bank, as the neocons would suggest, then the South Africa model for denuclearization is not totally off base. There's a certain bravado at the beginning of a Middle East regime change war. There's enthusiasm, bold predictions of swift victory, and usually a total misunderstanding of what happens next. Oh, Iraq wasn't prepared. Daisy cutter? This is how easily the so-called foreign policy experts believed we would carve our way through Iraq. I saw how many of our bravest patriots were pushing up daisies as a consequence of that war. I went to their funerals. I visited their grave sites. I saw the true cost of a flawed regime change war in the Middle East. The problem is we had no plan to get out. Iraq cost America $3 trillion, and this distraction and disaster aided in both the rise of China and ISIS. Whoever was telling you that we had the ability to topple a regime in Iraq and then come out with something better was either one, lying to you, or two, so wholly ignorant about the country they were invading that their lack of knowledge or curiosity or understanding led to blood and terrorism and chaos. So as we approach the 2025 vintage of regime change wars in Iran, I wonder if those now cheerleading attacks on Iran know anything about the country they want to topple.
Very powerful. See, very many things is brought out. Okay. The consequences of going into Iran and failing. The consequences of declaring victory in Iraq and then America failed. And we brought out very important things. ISIS came up. It was only after that Iraq thing that ISIS virtually ruled half of northern Iraq and Syria, and China came up. What happens if they do that now? There is internal pressure. I mean, if we think that, America is going blindfold into this whole story, sorry. We have to understand, and mind you, this gentleman was supposed to be the Attorney General of USA. Of course, he's a veteran. And what he said, well, look, I have attended funerals of these people. I mean, in Iraq. So he's cautioning people. He says, do you know what you're doing? And mind you, Iran is a bigger country, 90 million people. It's not a small country. It's a huge country with different terrain. And people are just talking without understanding the implications of going into Iran. There are a lot of people in India also who think, Iran, it's a useless country. Go in, do, yeah. Sorry. I agree there are problems in Iran. There's no doubt. I'm not for Iran. We'll just talk about Iran. But you just don't go in, like, either militarily or politically or diplomatically, just don't walk in and say, I'll take over Iran. It's not within the capability, and US has the knowledge. Okay. Anyway, what we'll do is we'll get ahead,
But
right? Oh, this is what I wanted to put across to you. It's a very interesting article which I thought I'll put across to you. And this was a New York Times. And normally, New York Times comes out with left-leaning liberal analysis. But when I read this, I thought this is a tremendous analysis. This is the heading. I've just picked a few important things for all of you to understand. And if you want to understand where this war is going, you must read this. Okay. And I'll be a little deliberate. I'll take time because this is my style. Okay. You might not like it. Okay. The heading is an Islamic republic with its back against the wall. The Iranian regime finds itself in its most difficult position for 46 years after the revolution that brought it to power. But does it mean the end? That's the question. I mean, for those of you who don't know, let me put things in his, when Iran was constituted back to its current status, after the Second World War and given independence, right? There was this chap Mossadegh who was the Prime Minister of Iran. Now, what he wanted to do, or he was the Prime Minister of this president, I don't remember the nomenclature, but he was the top man there. What he wanted to do, and Iran at that time had a lot of oil, there's no doubt about it. And everyone knew why Pakistan was created, to protect British interests and American interests and all that. That part of it was to protect the oil. Okay. The oil interests in Saudis and Iran and all this. Now, Mossadegh wanted to nationalize the Western oil companies, Shell and BP and all that. Okay. So he was assassinated. And then the Western, they brought this fellow Shah, Reza Pahlavi, king of Iran. The monarchy was reconstituted. And that fellow was a Ayyash. He did what he wanted to do and he didn't bother about people. And he went completely the other way. Yeah, he didn't bother about local culture, nothing, zero. As a result, there was revulsion from within. Right? After all, at the end of the day, it's a civilizational state. That the civilization values within Iran rebelled. And Khomeini, Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, who was sitting in France, was brought in 79. He came back. Revolution, Shah was thrown out and he came in. 79. From then to now, this thing. He died after 10 years and then this Khamenei took over. And he's now been here for about 37, 40 years. He's 87 years old. And over these years, this regime has become highly radical. And we must also understand that, slowly they were under severe sanctions. They couldn't develop their air force. They couldn't develop everything. In fact, their entire air force was the 70s. The time when Americans gave whatever they had to give of that time. That's it. After that, they've developed their own thing. The Iranian people are quite good. They're intelligent. They're technologically advanced. They're not fools. They're not all radical. Balanced people. You deal with Iranians, you'll know. A lot of Iranis are there in India. You deal with them, they're some of the most intelligent people. They're derivatives. The Parsis. Tata is a Parsi. So we shouldn't count them out. So they have developed their own force structure with their missiles, their nuclear, everything. But the regime is radical. They didn't have much. How do they get the power? So they developed this Hezbollah and Houthis and all these people. So they projected power through them without anything. It's now they're in a problem that whether it is Hamas or Houthis or Hezbollah or the Shia militias in Iraq, they have all been slaughtered. And they're now cornered. But that's an overstretch. These fellows, if they had sense, if they had sense and they had their own way of balancing things out, they would have still been having tremendous influence in West Asia. They went overboard, killed Jews, throw them into the seas and all, and they're suffering. And not all Iranians are for that. Like I told you, 70s, Iran and Israel wanted a pipeline between the two of them. And that was a time when, the rest of the Arab world was against Israel. So people should understand, the context in which this whole war is going on, and they should also understand the context in which I explain things. That is why I say we have tremendous interest in Iran, we have tremendous interest in Israel. Definitely, we need a regime change in Iran. If there's a regime change in Iran, that's the best for us. Even otherwise, we are okay. We are okay even with these Ayatollahs. That's a different story. But let's talk of this. Okay, I'll get back. So, what does this, I can talk all this incidentally without article, most of it. Okay, but I'm going to go through this article because I found it a very good analysis, something worth it. He says, but it doesn't mean the end. No, an unpopular and repressive Iranian regime has spent billions of dollars on a nuclear program and on projecting the Islamic revolution through armed regional proxies while presiding over a domestic economic disaster and stifling paralysis. All what I said. They projected power without air force, navy, everything, just land power. They went to the extent. Look at Houthis. Houthis are doing sea denial from land. Something new. Okay, but they screwed their own economy. They spent. Then he says later in this, an 86-year-old autocrat, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, rules this restive nation as he has for 36 years. Now it's 37 years. His system, remote from a youthful and aspirational society, looks sclerotic to many and is now up against the wall. The regime can change given the conditions. But are the conditions being created? Will these 2 weeks give that time? That is what one has to understand. This is the next thing. What the Islamic Republic is a rotten tooth waiting to be plugged, like the Soviet Union in its later years. This is the view of an Iranian sitting inside Iran. See how things are. Okay, this little thing, I'll go over it. I'll disappear and so that you people can read. In 2009, there was an uprising. Millions of people took to the streets of Tehran to protest what was seen as a stolen presidential election. For a few days, the future of the regime stood on a knife edge, but with utter ruthlessness, it prevailed. They just massacred people and threw people into jail and all that. This whole thing could have been toppled over, but they withstood that. Then there are isolated cries of death to Khamenei. It raised into the night sky, but popular protests are impossible under bombs and always risky under the thumb of the government. There are no obvious leader to steer any political transition for the same reason. See this. See the problem with the normal. A lot of people who are against this regime, they say death to Khamenei, but they can't rise if there's no organized leadership within the opposition. And then, if they talk, can they do it as bombs are falling on them or under scrutiny of the regime? Right? The regime is not broken so far. There is fear still on the streets. Ayatollah Khamenei remains defiant, saying that Iran stands firm in the face of imposed war, just as it will stand firm against imposed peace, and it will not yield to any imposition. And we must understand that he has got all the clerics who control the society in his grip. And he's not bothered to die. He's lived 87 years. His son is ready to take over. There's a succession, but there's no opposition. There's no opposition. Okay. Half a century ago, Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini's revolution deposing the Shah and imposing death to America as its weekly refrain came into being. The insurrection never delivered the freedom it promised. From 79 to now, Iran has not got any freedom, which then at that time it was promised. Even now, this country says death to America, death to Israel. So why should they not come and attack? Look at the flip. So why should they show any mercy to such a country for half a century? You look at that movie called Argo. You'll see some of the picturization there. Might be a little Hollywoodish, but there is a reality in that. Okay. Iran's gross GDP or total output has fallen by 45% since 2012. Crippling international sanctions over the nuclear program contributed to this downward spiral. But so did corruption, bungled privatization program, and bloated state companies. Obviously, these mullahs don't know how to run this country. They run it. It's a theocracy. It's one of the few theocracies in the world. The one message that the Iranian people want to get across is that having done all this and wreaked all this kind of havoc, they want make sure that the end of this is that the horrendous regime is gone. So there's a view that they want this regime to go. It might be propaganda by New York Times or not, but I think there is some truth in it. At the same time, the Israeli bombing persists. There are signs of patriotic surge even among opponents of the regime who have spent time in the prison. See, the bombing is pulling people back. For Iran, for some, Iran's now demonstrated vulnerability is the proof of its need for a bomb. If it had a bomb, would it have been so vulnerable? People ask, why should I get hit? And if I'm getting hit, why should I support Israel? People are yet doing it. It's a country which is in ferment. Even if we are in part of the opposition, we cannot remain indifferent to an invasion of our homeland. This is the view of people. This is the thing. What would stop the regime if it survived from spinning the centrifuges and returning to enrichment? Nothing. If it survives. Although the nuclear program has never delivered a bomb and only scant energy at astronomical cost, it has been the mullah's most popular, potent nationalist symbol, much like nationalization of Iran's oil industry in 1951. That was a disaster. Even now, this is a disaster. It's a disaster happening. The mullah regime should go, but there's no opposition. But is this the right way to go? Does Trump's 2-week pause give that opportunity for this to happen? It happens, that's the best. We don't know. It might be 2 weeks, it could go to 4 weeks. Right. The next problem. There is no evidence, however, that those leaders who are still alive have packed their bags. That is, these regime guys. But there are reports that many of the people who are in the regime today, their wives and families have gone to Russia. There are reports. Okay. And how the Israeli bombardment might end in the burial of the Islamic Republic is also not clear. It would be foolish to underestimate the Islamic Republic's determination to survive and the lengths it might go in pursuit of that. The Islamic regime is a zombie regime. It's fed off and spread disorder for a long time, but it's terminally ill even if it is still standing. So you see both sides of the story in this whole thing. Okay. So this is something which we have to, every angle of this regime change business and all comes into play. It is in this thing that will Trump's 2 week pause. He said, I'll give way to something. We don't know. Definitely that alternate, that Shah's son is not a alternate. That imposition will not work because that fellow is just the playboy who spent money all over the countryside, which Shah had salted away much before. And doesn't have any popular support. So let us see. In the event 2 weeks, something might come up. It might not come up, and eventually Trump might have to go for a war. But options will be better. That's what I feel. Okay, then there's an issue. You see, in the American system, you can't take a country to war. For that matter, any democratic system, you just can't go for war anywhere. There is a method, and especially in America, the Congress has to approve for the president to go to war, and there's problem within. You heard Matt Gaetz, right? And Trump is not telling anyone about his plans, probably because he himself doesn't know what his plans are. That's the way he changes things. So there are issues in this whole story, right? Yeah, and then there's this chap, Mike Flynn. Very interesting. Who was Mike Flynn? He was an NSA in Trump's first term. He's a 3-star general. He puts out this tweet yesterday. He's a hard right Republican. He's been to jail, also all that nonsense. But he's put out some points which I thought I must share with you, which are very interesting because it gives you the thinking in America, the right-wing America, maybe more extreme, but there. This is the last story for the day. Israel is after the psychotic leadership, not the people of Iran, who have desperately been wanting their freedom back for decades. That's what he's put out in this. He's given logic of the whole story of why America is going in there and all that. He says, US must allow Israel to finish the job, to achieve victory. This then permits the US to truly execute a much needed and long overdue pivot to the Indo-Pacific. He's still looking at the Indo-Pacific. China is our real enemy. We must shift our focus to China. He says this is only temporary. Don't see this as the end. A positive US and Israeli relationship with new Iranian leadership, so he's looking at regime change, serves to further weaken China, which is logical. Okay. Just the oil alone that comes out of the Persian Gulf is enough to bring China to its knees. Very prescient. Israeli victory permits expansion of the Abraham Accords. We'll talk of that separately. It does. Okay. Expanded to Israel. Expanded to Iran. Destruction of the tyrants choking the light of freedom from the souls of the great Iranian people will prove to be the stabilizing effect for the region. I think so. There's some logic in what he's saying. After what we've read that, the Khomeinis and the Khomeinis have only destroyed the people and the state. They need to go. How to go, that's a different story. A clear and unambiguous victory establishes the perception and reality of US global and Israeli regional dominance. So now he is talking of global dominance of Israel. That's their aim. A renewed Iran led by a benevolent leadership, one who embraces humanity and the global family of nations, will be a force multiplier for the United States. Logical? Lastly, a relationship between Iran and India could be leveraged. He's talking of the relationship between India and Iran. He recognizes it. India is a great and powerful yet humble nation, the kind you don't want to mess with and clearly want on your side in a knife fight. Okay? If this can be nurtured, and it must, this relationship represents another massive force multiplier for the world. The administration needs to embrace these type considerations and others yet to be considered. So, there are views which we need to think of besides the normal, right? And see, today there's 2 weeks, a lot of thinking will go on, and then we'll see action. In the meanwhile, Israel versus Iran, action will go on. Let's see how that action goes, what will be the results, and how things are. Let me tell you, I'm spending so much time on this thing because it is changing the world. It's changing the world. Yesterday, also, when I spoke about no free lunches for Pakistan, I spoke of Russia. So new angles are coming up. What should India's story be? That's the important thing, and we'll discuss this. We'll discuss this probably over the weekend, right? Okay. Thanks a lot for all of you who have joined in today. I'll take some questions. We have about 10 minutes. I want to finish off by the hour because I have to go out somewhere. Right. Ramesh Kumar Nanda, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for the memberships you've gifted. All I'll say is, look, people like Ramesh are gifting memberships that last for a month. After that, those people for whom memberships have been gifted, please renew it. You can't have a free ride from everyone every time. Okay. Yeah. Jai Hind, Rohan, good morning. Let me call out everyone. Hans, yeah. Trump never study. Okay, that's your view, but I don't think so. I'm glad I'm attending this session live. Been a long-term follower, but not often got to attend a live thing. I hope I'm not disappointed you. Right? Okay. Yeah, despite the tremendous Israeli actions, the KIA senior military commanders and scientists are replaced as they too are organized. Iran has a lot of teeth left. Yes, I agree with you. There's no doubt. Yeah. This is important. Hope and pray for safety of innocent civilians on both sides. I agree. Mm, do you think the point 0.5 front is slowly getting the message to behave? I think so. Okay. John Doe talks of Fordo. I agree. Right. Arrow system. Let's not discount the fact. Yeah. Let's not discount the fact that the deep state has vested interest in sustained war. Deep state owns Trump. Munir's Nobel Prize drama might be pushed by Khomeini to induce ceasefire. Maybe. All these are open at this point of time. Right. No matter what Trump does, he'll not get a Nobel Prize. I agree. Yeah, the West poured a lot of resources into Iraq during the Iran-Iraq war. They couldn't outthrow the Ayatollah regime. What are the chances it will with Israel? That's what the thing. It's up in the air. It's up in the air. We still don't know. Iran is a tough nut to crack. US strategy is always to make other countries fight and step in the end to finish the job or mediate. This is true in Russia, Ukraine war, Israel, Iran, and even India, China. Yeah, largely that's the way it behaves. But it gets into fights on its own also. Don't forget Vietnam, don't forget Afghanistan, don't forget Iraq, and now Iran. Who is this guy, Praveen Sani, and why does he give doom and gloom analysis of Indian Army? He was an ex-Indian Army man. Yeah, I know who he is. He's artillery guy who, after 5 years, he left the army and he's taken to writing. But I think he's been subverted, and I say this openly. He, you know, anyone who doesn't subscribe to his view, he blocks them off. That's one. I can't reply to him because I had a difference of opinion, and I find that he's got too many links with Pakistanis. He's got too many links with Chinese, and the Chinese quote him as a great thinker. Pakistanis help him out. So that's something. I mean, He's a fishy guy at best. So if you want to listen to him, you please understand you are listening to propaganda from Pakistan and China. Yeah, it's been 4.5 decades of the Islam regime. Do you think it's feasible to take them out when the last two generations didn't know how Iran was before 79? I, to some extent, you're right, Abhishek, but the fact is that young people have their own views. It's not that Iranians don't go out, they go out, they see the world, and they come back and they have different views. Iranians are also allowed into America and back. It's not as a sanction doesn't mean no Iranian can get into things. So there is some flow. People go to Russia, people go to India, people go to many places. So let's not rule that out. Thanks for another great podcast, General. Appreciate how you are teaching us how to think these matters. Thank you. Welcome. Uh, Trump is caught between the hammer and anvil. Let me see whether it is that way. Uh, okay, I'll not. Yeah, a lot of things. Let me see. Please use AI auto translator. Dangi, it's like this. At this point of time, there is a auto translator which is Google and YouTube have given, but they are in the videos. If you go there, you can use it in different audio tracks. As simple as that. I mean, more than that, I don't know. If someone gives me a better thing, I will apply it. The problem is in a live telecast, you don't get that. Israel never lost any war. On the other hand, the US has never won any war. I disagree with you. Israel has lost in Lebanon, in the Bekaa Valley. Okay, they had to beat a retreat. So don't go by these premises. Yeah, I think USA, Israel haven't thought out the end game properly. Currently, son of Shah, basically US allied, is a front runner as a puppet. If Ayatollah regime falls, but this chap doesn't know grassroots. I agree with you. That's why probably Trump has giving himself more time. Yeah, Matt Gaetz is the son of former Congressman Don Gates, loyal businessman, friend of Trump in Florida. But he's spoken very interestingly. That's the thing. Right. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Chai K. Good morning. Yeah, regime change by deep state isn't for peace or progress. It's to loot resources as seen in Iraq, Syria, Venezuela, Ukraine. That's part of the game. That's the world you're living in, right? But neither is the current regime useful to their own people. See, these countries are like that. Whichever way they go, that's the way they are. Yeah, why is Iran not closing Strait of Hormuz? It's cutting its own feet. After all, to sustain this, it also has to send its own oil out from Karg Island. Okay, uh, and it still might. That's the last option. It still might. Yeah, how do we define a civilization state? A civilization state is something which is based on a civilization. What are the civilization? The Egyptian civilization, Persian civilization, Indian civilization, Chinese civilization. These are the civilizations. Okay, to some extent, the European civilization. So that's the way you go about it. Okay, let me see if there's a new one. So many are saying the regime isn't good for India as it will be a US ally and India will be surrounded completely. No, I don't agree with this. A country like Iran, when it comes up, the way things will happen, I don't think USA will be in also total control of this regime, whichever. That's the composition of Iran. And you can't control 90 million people through a puppet regime. That was tried once and it failed. Yeah, the movie Argo is a dramatization. Yeah, I agree. So you get the hang of things. That's why I recommended it. Uh, where do the other nations of the Middle East stand on this strategic pause? Can there be a Shia alternative allowed to rise? There is a real threat of a balkanized Iran and the neighborhood. I agree with you. They stand nowhere at this point of time. We'll see their ideas as they come out. Look, to a large extent, this is a flip by Trump, which has taken a lot of people by surprise. Right. Could India be attacked for being fanatical Hindu or under the pretext of being fanatical? Sorry, it can't be. It can't be. Don't worry about it. India is too big a country to be attacked. Like China is too big a country to be attacked. People are worried about attacking Iran with 90 million population. So you are in 1.4 billion. How will you they be controlled? Yeah. Good morning, Parveen. Um, Very important last point. Strong and humble are to be respected and taken seriously. Because if you stretch their patience, then the wrath is imaginable, just like Shiva in Hindu mythology. I agree with you. Uh, yeah, your podcasts are very informative and enlightening. Enlightening. However, your professionalism is sullied by cartoons, though funny. I feel it's unnecessary. It somehow takes away the seriousness of this. Is this the opinion of everyone? If that's the opinion of everyone, I'll stop making cartoons. But I need opinion because get a lot of people who tell me, "Sir, please continue." Your thoughts on Israel's position? Are they overreacting as per the US report you read? I think so. I think Israel has maybe a little too ahead of the curve at this point of time. I mean, they pulled USA into this. In fact, to that extent, I think Trump having this 2 week pause puts a break on Israel's momentum. Israel was pushing, hustling USA into a war, which Trump has taken a back. I think it's a very smart move. Trump, yeah, Obama got Nobel for doing nothing. Trump will get the same if he does nothing also. But he's doing a lot, no? So we'll see how it goes. Okay. Okay, let's see. Who else? Yeah, someone says, no, I love cartoons. So we'll go with Abhishek also says, continue with cartoons. It continues, cartoons and thumbnails are the cherry on the top. So we will continue with cartoons. Yeah, a lot of people are saying, no, we love your cartoons. Someone says, I can see your slides very clearly on my mobile phone, so I'll continue with the way things are. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Sir, on cartoon and narrative shaping, I love the cartoons, but they do make it harder to sell to moderate audience who I know would not watch. That's okay. That's part of the deal. Okay. Yeah. We'll continue with the cartoon. Yeah. Right. Okay. Fine. I think generally we've covered all the questions for the day. So watch out in the evening, 7:30. Join back General अपना Jaipur dialogues के साथ and with Sanjay Dixit. We're going to do something about Asim Munir, Nobel Prize, Trump, and Pakistan and India. He gives a different story. I mean, he gives different angles in, and we'll see how it goes. And yeah, this is the thing. One can use a magnifying screen if they can't see slides on mobile. We'll leave it now. I got your views, and I'll stick to this format. I'll not change. And please remember, I'm a man and a dog kind of a man without a dog kind of a story. I do it for fun, not for yeah. Okay. Thanks a lot. See you in the evening. I know, like someone says, Ashish says, no, sir, Jaipur Deluxe is so over the top, but that's okay. You get different views. You must get different views. I don't mind doing with right or left wing people. That's why many times when right wingers come and I talk with them, they give you a different perspective. That is why I get left wing kind of thinking and putting it put across so that you get a balance. Right? I'm neither a right winger nor a left winger. I'm a centrist. So I give you balance. We need to have balanced thinking. When you have balanced thinking, balanced outputs will happen. Right? With this, thanks a lot. And we'll meet in the evening. Till then, Jai Hind.